there everyone, and welcome to another edition of Lydia's Crafty Corner with me, Lydia, in my little crafty corner. So today we're going to be playing with a new stamp set and we're going to be creating a beautifully shaped card. So I am going to be using the Endless Florescence stamp set and we're going to be using this really large image here. I have a piece of watercolor cardstock which is quite large, so we can fit that beautiful image on. So I am going to use some heat embossing on this, so I did add some anti-static powder down first, and I'm then going to use some embossing ink to stamp the image. I will be stamping this image twice just to make sure that I have it perfectly stamped. You could just do it the once if you do find that your embossing ink maybe isn't as dry as mine. Maybe I do need to re-ink this. So I'm just going to stamp that the second time just in place on top of the one that I've just stamped there. So once I've done that, I can then take some of the anti-gold embossing powder from Altenew and I'm just going to place that all over the image, tap off the excess, and then I'm going to heat set this, and you can see just how big and pretty this image is here. So once that is done, I am then going to watercolor the image. So I have the Artist Watercolor 24 pan set and some water and a little kind of cloth to the side of me. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to color in all of these images. So to start, what I normally do is I put some clean clear water down on the image that I want to add the color to, and then I drop in the color. Now this one is very, very highly saturated. I did use a lot of the orange on this one and I'm loving how bright and vibrant this is. So as you can see, I'm popping some clean clear water down that does have a tint of that orange down on the petal, and I'm then taking some more of that pigment, adding it to the base of the petal and then kind of working that out with a little bit more clean water. So once I've finished with that little tulip that we have to the side, I'm then going to work on the rose. So I'm just going to add some water down first with a little tiny bit of that pink colour in. I'm then going to take some red. I think this is the Tea Party and a little bit of mix of the red Cosmos as well. And then once I've done the kind of base to the colour, I'm then going to drop in some more of this really pigmented pigment to the base of all of those petals. Once I had the red in place, I then wanted to add a little bit of contrast to this one just to make it pop a little bit more. So I'm just going to add some touches of yellow into that red and you're going to get some really beautiful blended colours in there. I'm then going to create a purple, so into that red colour that we already had, I've just mixed some of the purple that we have in the stamp set. I wanted it a little bit more pinky than the purple that's in the pan set, so that's why I've added that into the red. Again, adding a really soft wash of that colour down first with some lots and lots of water, and then dropping in some more of that really highly pigmented pigment just to the base of those petals, and that will kind of bleed and blend on the wet image that you have, and it's going to kind of do a lot of the work for you. I was then going to paint these in the same purple, the next ones, but I decided to add some dark blue into this, and that's given me a really beautiful indigo colour for these next ones here. So we're going to kind of do a rainbow, but not perfectly. So I've done those ones, and I'm going to work on this like kind of daffodil flower over here. Again, I'm adding some colour down, some water with a little tiny bit of that colour, and I'm then going to add some of that emerald kind of seashore colour into the base and then work that out a little bit more with some water. As you can see, I am cleaning my brush off on that little pad at the side of me just to make sure that none of these colours get muddied, and I'm just going to add some yellow to the end just to kind of even up the look of this, so we have that bright yellow or orange on either side of the image. So once I've done with that, I can then move on to the leaves. So I've just mixed my own green using most of the greens in the pan set. You can just go for one of them. And I'm just going to add a really light wash of that colour down onto the leaf first. So where I would just normally add some clean clear water. And I'm then going to pull that out with some more water and add some really dark pigment, so that colour that we've just mixed, to the base of the petals, and then pull that out. I am using the same green for all of the leaves and the stems on this one, but you could mix things up if you wanted to create a little bit more interest, but I decided just to go with the same greens for this one. So once I have added everything in, and it's looking very, very pretty, I'm then going to add in some of the flower centers. Now, I've waited until all of the images were dry before I have added in the flower centers, because I didn't want the orange to mix with that blue. It would have given me not a nice color, to say the least. So I'm just going to pop those into the center. Once that's done, I then wanted to add a dark background on this. Now, if you wanted to, you could just go around the outside of these images with a marker. An artist marker would be perfect, a dark one if you wanted to. So once I'd finished going around the outside, I did leave this to dry. And I'm then going to add a little bit more interest just using some of the coloring pencils from Altenew. So all I'm doing is I'm just going to grab a pencil that's kind of the same tone as the one that I've used on my watercolor, but really dark. So I do want to add a really dark kind of depth to these images. So I have a really dark turquoise color here, and I'm just going to kind of flick from the base of that petal outwards to give us that really dark place there. I'm going to do the same on all of these flowers as well, and also the leaves to give us that really great depth for the image. So I'm using a really dark orange for that little tulip that we have there. I'm then going to grab a really dark green. You could even use a brown if you wanted to add a little bit more like interest or depth of color to these images that we have. So all of the leaves and the stems, I'm just going to add where I would think would be the darkest on there. I'm then going to take a really dark pink that we have in the coloring pencils. Again, just adding a couple of strokes from the base of the petal outwards to give us that really dark kind of look right in the center there. So it kind of looks like it's really, really curved inwards. And I'm then going to take a really dark purple, again add that to the ones that we have into this one. And then last but not least, I'm going to take a red and I'm going to add some really dark points here. Again, I'm just adding this where I think it's going to be the darkest, so to the base of the petals, or where petals kind of overlap each other, and that's where would create the most of the shadow. So once I have finished with that, I can then take the coordinating die and I'm going to place that into position around that image. I am adding some tape so it doesn't move while I run that through the die cutting machine. I can then take that out and you can see just how pretty this is. So to create our card, I'm going to cut 2 of the same die using some of the classic Crest Solar White cardstock. This is the heavier one, so the 110 pound. And all I'm going to do then is I'm going to take one of those that we've just cut and I'm going to score a line. I'm going around about an inch from the top of that little tulip that we have on the side there. And I'm just going to go all the way around, down this image, just making sure that I have that line nice and straight on all of those pieces. Once that's done, I can fold these back on themselves, and this is going to create our little card. This is going to be the fold that you would normally have, but this is what's going to stick the other piece to it. So I'm just going to use my bone folder just to make sure that this crease line is nice and creased, so it's easier to kind of fold the image later on and then have it as our card base. So once I've done that, I'm then going to take some glue tape and I'm just going to add it right at the top of that score line. You don't want to add it all over, or you will stick these pieces together and it won't be a card, it'll just be a very, very pretty image or a stacked die cut. So I can take the other white die cut that we've just cut, pop that into place, making sure that all of the images line up before I push that down, and you can see that that is going to stand up really cutely. Now we can just take the image that we had before that has all of the beautiful colors on, and I'm just going to use some glue tape to stick that down. You could add some double-sided adhesive to this if you wanted to as well. So I'm just going to pop that into place onto the card. For my sentiments, I already have some of the sentiments from the Sentiment Strips 3 stamp set already heat embossed in white onto some jet black cardstock, and I'm just going to trim these down to size using a little guillotine, as you can see here. So once I'm happy with how the sentiment looks and it's all nicely trimmed, we can then figure out where we want it to go. Now I do want this nice and straight, so I've lined up that bottom edge of the flowers on my craft mat, and I'm then going to add some foam tape to the back of the sentiment and then pop that down nice in place, nice and straight. So here is the card complete. I really do hope that you like the card and that you've enjoyed the video as well. If you do make a card inspired by this, it'd be great if you do share, because we'd love to see. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and we'll see you again really, really soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, crafty friend, Lydia here. Just popping in to say that you can get your daily dose of crafting tips, techniques, and tutorials just like this by subscribing to the Altenew YouTube channel. All you need to do is click on that little bell up there and you will never miss a video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.